Okay, so I'm doing this video right before I have a meeting that I have to go to. But someone had asked me this question. I thought I did it before. I thought I answered this before about what are some of the things that I wish that we had in Tacoma that we don't have. Now, there are a few things, right? But a lot of those are just kind of like wish list, like, this would be great if we had it. But there is one thing that I feel is really, really extremely important and that we just don't have. And you hear, and I'm going to say both of them actually. One is the lack of retail space downtown. Now, you're going to get a few people who will say, well, there's a lot of retail space downtown. Um, and if you look at old photos of Tacoma, I'm talking photos from like the 70s. There are quite a few buildings downtown that serve that retail purpose. Prior to the mall being completed, downtown, like most downtowns, were where everyone went to, right? Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. So downtown Tacoma was no different. And now a lot of those buildings are gone. They were knocked down for various reasons, or they caught on fire and were demolished. And so you have this situation where, for example, what's the one place? I forget. Tolfason Plaza. That used to actually be a building or two that was there, decent sized building. And there's a group on Facebook here in Tacoma called Over Tacoma, and they do a lot of drone footage and things like that. Not only for Tacoma, but in different places in the country. And they oftentimes will do before and after photos, and they will show you what it looked like before and what it looks like today. And to be honest with you, Tacoma looked more like a city then than it does now, in my opinion. It just had a lot more things going for it. But a lot of the retail space is now gone, and the retail space that is available is not either it's unattainable for most people because smaller businesses that will go for those spaces just can't afford it, or B, those spaces are just inaccessible, meaning that they're not in the right location given the change in downtown, right? It's a way different picture. We went from a downtown that was crowded and you had tons of cars everywhere and people walking to what we have today. And so it's a shell of what it used to be, even though we've had more development now than we've ever had in our history in one city. So there's a chance it could come back to its glory days, but retail space is one of those things that we're missing. And I'm talking good prime retail space. We're just lacking that. And so hopefully over time that will improve and we will have a much better retail atmosphere downtown. But that would be probably the one thing that I would say I would say number two. Okay, so that's number two. Number one would be the lack of restaurant space. Okay, now this is kind of similar because it's retail, but restaurants have a very hard time to begin with because similar to grocery stores, which we don't have in downtown Tacoma, they're working on a margin. And sometimes that razor thin margin can be disrupted easily. I mean, the whole situation with COVID and the lockdowns is a great example of that. But it is one of those industries that is somewhat insulated from the online world, where you literally, similar to our pottery business, it's protected from the likes of Amazon because Amazon can't duplicate what we do. So restaurants are needed, but we don't have a lot of them. And so that's slowly starting to change. However, there are a lot of businesses that want to move downtown and just cannot afford it. Again, downtown Tacoma is an interesting animal because in some respects it's unproven for certain industries, and it's unproven to some degree for restaurants because you're really trying to fight for, the basic traffic that's down there. And it becomes very difficult. Now, there are certain areas where you can pretty much have a good guarantee, right? Stanford's is going into a old, I forget, Pacific Grill. Pacific Grill was on Pacific Avenue. It was more of a higher end restaurant, and so you're having Stanford move in, which is also higher end. Who else called me? I got to decline that. So that's more of a surefire thing. Putting restaurants in other places in downtown can be kind of risky. There's not a lot of places where you can put the higher end type of restaurants and get success. But the higher end market is not really what I'm so focused on. I think that that's great, but there are a lot of things that need to, in my opinion, happen. Now, there are other projects out there, and I think that Tacoma is putting in for the old city hall. There's going to be some restaurant space there that's available. And I think there's going to be between two, maybe three, more than likely just two. And so that helps. That helps. But one of the core things that I think we need is like a food hall. Having a food hall downtown is great because what it does, and typically, if you don't know what a food hall is, most people do, but out this part of the country, they don't really have a lot of those. But food halls basically are several different restaurants inside of one building. It's kind of like if you take a mall, get rid of all the stores, and you just had the food court and the seating, that would be a food hall. And so essentially you have all these different types of businesses that are in there, and sometimes they have just one commercial kitchen that they pull from, or they all have their own kitchen. And essentially people are able to come in, they could eat at different places, pull from different areas, and it's typically kind of a faster type of meal type of deal, right? It's not fast food, and it's not necessarily, tablecloth type dining, but it is a faster service, right? Similar to when you go to the mall, you go to the food court, it's kind of like you're in and out. You may have a little bit of a line depending upon which business is kind of super popular, but typically it's kind of fast. It's a very quick process. And that type of thing is really needed downtown because we don't have a lot of eateries given what we have. I mean, if you look at the amount of people who are living downtown now and who will be living downtown, if you look at the amount of office buildings that are filling up down there, excuse me, and if you look at just the student population, UWT, which is growing, there is a need for more places for people to eat, not necessarily fast food and not necessarily fine dining, but that happy middle where you can pretty much go in and it's a quick type of thing. It's a 5-minute wait. Basically, it takes me longer to pick out what I want versus how long it takes for them to get everything done. So the food is already pretty much prepared. They're just kind of dishing it up. And so the fact that we don't have that type of atmosphere downtown is what's hurting us. Now, there have been a lot of restaurants who are interested in downtown that just can't afford the heavy lift of the minting systems and all of that type of stuff. It's very expensive. And to be honest with you, the health department is challenging for people because you have to be able to meet all their standards and demands, and that can be tricky. So you have some people who have their own kitchen. Some restaurants can say, look, we can technically allow another, like a food truck, to come in and prepare their food. However, if something goes wrong, then that restaurant is potentially responsible or liable. No matter if they were in fault or not, if that food truck didn't handle food correctly, then it could be traced back to them. So a lot of restaurants don't even want to get involved in it. And if they do, it's super expensive, right? It's every month you're paying a huge chunk of money to that. So it becomes somewhat unattainable, right? Depending upon what you're making, it becomes somewhat unattainable. So having some sort of a food hall is better because, one, you're not just relying on one restaurant that will pull in the people. You're relying on several different ones. That variety is what people like. So you may have 10 coworkers go with you on lunch, And all 10 of you may eat something completely different. And so that's what's appealing, because then everyone sits at the table together. They're able to sit and talk and chat. They're able to get out of the office. They're able to walk around, all of those types of things. And so people are able to say, well, I got such and such, it was pretty good, or I got this, it's not that great, or I got that, I thought it was good, but nah, not really. Or this over here is super amazing, and everything I got was great, and it was super cheap. Those are things that we desperately need to really help grow downtown. Now, there will be additional restaurants that will come. There will be additional places where people can go in. It's kind of like a bar type of scene. But to be honest with you, a lot of people who are in the professional folks during the middle of the day don't want to go to a restaurant where there is alcohol. You know what I mean? Like, they don't typically want to go to those types of places. They want to go to something that is just a quick thing, and then they're able to get out. So to me, that is one of the critical things and I put it as number one because I think that is the one thing that's holding us back. We don't need 4 or 5 different food halls. One food hall that has at least 6 different restaurants would be insane. Now, keep in mind, Freight House Square has something similar to this. It's their food court, but it's the only thing we have that's close to a food hall. It's a very narrow, the building's huge, but considering its size, it's narrow. There's eateries on both sides. You have probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 different places for people to eat. There's seating. It's one of the most popular things in Freight House, other than the Painting Pan and Pottery Studio, right? It draws people in because you can get different types of food at any time. Hold on one second. It was just a squirrel. So you're able to get different types of food, and it's not super expensive, and it's pretty good. So that type of thing, if we had another one that was actually in downtown and it had a similar concept, I think it would do amazing. I think it would do tremendous. You see a lot of this back in other places. Albuquerque, for example, they have one downtown. The goal is, and again, if Albuquerque can do it downtown, there's no reason why Tacoma can't. Albuquerque, New Mexico can support a grocery store downtown and a pharmacy, as well as a food hall. And the setup in Albuquerque is not close to what it is here. We have more people working downtown, more people living downtown, more people walking around downtown than Albuquerque does. So there's no reason or excuse as to why we can't do it. It's just finding the right people who can kind of make it happen. But that would be what I would suggest, is definitely some sort of a food hall and more retail spaces downtown that are not so expensive that most people will say no to. Again, there could be a remedy to this when we're looking at the Tacoma Town Center. It supposedly is going to have some 50,000 square feet of space, which is not a lot at all. But that may help bring some type of shopping down there that is not only just on Pack Avenue. The idea is to have people throughout downtown. If you look at Seattle, for example, Seattle is busy through most of its downtown because everything is kind of scattered. You have a concentration of their shopping on one street, but you have places of interest all over the city. And so it makes it, and given the difficulty in parking, people have to walk. And you have the tourism, you have all that. So if Tacoma can get to that level of where, not that level, but if they can get to the point of where they can have different places where people can go to eat, then it can help build overall downtown. Adding more foot traffic means more businesses will come, more businesses mean more people, all of that. So anyhow, tell me what you think. Be sure to join the Discord, like I said, down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.